Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're all about cravats.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so many people write in saying they want to wear them,
Yeah.
but don't know where to start. They see them as kind of this, vintage thing,
Yeah,
but actually they can be a really cool, modern accessory.
absolutely.
So we're going to look at all that. We'll cover their history, different types of cravats, and
Yeah.
how to tie them for a contemporary look, and we'll uncover some really interesting stuff along the way.
The cravat story is full of surprises.
Yeah, people think cravats are a modern invention,
Yeah,
but they go way back, all the way to ancient Rome.
really. Wow, we're talking like togas and gladiators era.
Yeah, they had this thing called the vocalium, basically, a chin cloth, worn for warmth, or some orders used it to protect their voices.
Let's see.
So even back then, a simple piece of cloth could be practical and stylish.
So even in ancient Rome, fashion choices were about more than just looking good.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how some things never change.
Yeah. So how do we get from Roman chin cloths to the cravats we know today?
Well, fast forward a few centuries to 17th century France.
All right.
You had these Croatian soldiers really known for their unique style.
Right.
And they came sporting this neckwear made of lace or muslin, tied in this cool way. And it just took off. This fashion craze swept across Europe.
Yeah, and we get the word cravat from croat.
Right. A nod to those stylish soldiers.
Quite a legacy. The cravats didn't stay simple for long, did they?
Oh, no. They evolved, got more and more elaborate, almost ridiculously large sometimes.
Yeah, I actually read this crazy story about a general whose life was saved in battle
What?
because his massive cravat stopped a bullet. It was in something by Dr. Pizzi's.
Wow. I mean, that just shows you something seemingly frivolous like fashion can have unexpected consequences.
It's true, and the evolution of the cravat, it also tells us something about how ideas of masculinity and social norms change over time.
Exactly. Yeah. What was once seen as the peak of masculine style might seem outrageous or impractical today.
It reminds us that fashion is always reflecting and influencing the world around us.
For sure.
Now, from those large, elaborate cravats, we get a more structured style, the stocks.
Right, stocks.
Uh,
Essentially stiffened collars meant to support the chin, maintain good posture.
Okay, like a very early version of neck support.
Yeah, but way more rigid. In the 18th century, they were often made from horsehair.
Oh, wow, horsehair, that's pretty stiff.
Yeah, and some military officers, they insisted on these overly tight stocks, to give their soldiers a healthy appearance.
Right.
It's interesting how even something as simple as a collar could be used for conformity and control.
I can imagine those tight stocks weren't exactly the most comfortable thing.
No.
And speaking of comfort, while cravats can add a lot of elegance,
Oh, yeah.
it's important to choose styles that let you move freely and don't feel constricting.
For sure. Comfort over everything.
We don't want to sacrifice comfort for style.
Absolutely. But still, it's important to choose neckwear that feels good and allows you to, move naturally.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about a fabric that just screams elegance.
Okay.
Silk.
Ah, silk.
Yeah, the classic black silk cravat, that's timeless. Even Napoleon was a fan.
Really?
Though there's this weird story about him choosing a white one for the Battle of Waterloo.
Interesting. Maybe he just wanted to change things up that day.
Who knows? But anyway, speaking of silk, it has such a long history.
Oh, yeah.
Used in everything from clothing to art for centuries.
Definitely.
It goes all the way back to ancient Rome
Yeah.
and gradually became more popular in England over time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just amazing to think, this luxurious fabric comes from silkworms.
Right. That whole process is fascinating.
It is. And while black silk is seen as the most formal, the traditional choice, colored silk cravats can be really stylish too, particularly for daytime or informal occasions. And if you're looking for some truly beautiful silk cravats, I have to recommend top-notch vintage.co.uk. They have an amazing collection of vintage pieces.
Oh, yeah. It's great to see that renewed interest in vintage clothing and accessories.
Totally.
Those pieces often have this level of craftsmanship and detail that you don't always find in modern stuff.
Yeah, it's true. Now, you mentioned wanting to wear cravats but not knowing where to start.
Yeah.
It might seem a little intimidating at first, but I promise, tying a cravat, it's like learning any new skill.
Mm-hmm.
It gets easier with practice, and there's such a sense of satisfaction when you master it.
Definitely. And, even the most complex styles are achievable with practice. It's all about starting with the basics and building your confidence. And
Exactly.
preparing your cravat properly is key. Washing, ironing, folding it correctly, all that ensures a sharp, crisp look.
And let's not forget the starch.
Ah, yes, starch.
Yeah.
Crucial for a well-tied cravat.
So important.
It adds structure, helps it hold its shape, and protects it from the elements.
I see.
Winter, starch adds warmth. Summer, it prevents clinging.
Wow, starch is like a secret weapon for cravat enthusiasts.
That's a good way to put it.
So where do we begin with tying a cravat? I've heard of this legendary Gordian knot. Is that the place to start?
Well, the Gordian knot, it's certainly one of the most iconic and challenging cravat ties. Legend has it, Alexander the Great, he got so frustrated with its complexity, he sliced right through it with a sword.
A bit extreme. But I'm guessing you have a slightly less destructive approach.
While I wouldn't recommend the sword method, mastering the Gordian knot is like unlocking the key to many other cravat ties.
Okay.
It involves precise folds, specific movements, but once you grasp the technique, a whole world of style possibilities opens up.
So it's the foundation, and from there you can build a whole repertoire of cravat tying skills.
Exactly. It really is. Now, before we get into the actual tying, how about we take a look at some of the different cravat styles you can try out?
Okay, like a cravat style tour.
Exactly. Let's start with the Oriental. This one's got this, turban-like shape.
Interesting.
With a graceful crescent formed by the ends. It's a really sophisticated choice. Adds a bit of drama to an outfit.
That sounds pretty elegant.
Yeah.
In some Turkish circles, they actually used to wear a tight silken cord as a cravat.
Really?
Yeah, imagine the discomfort. It even sounds a bit dangerous.
Yikes. Well, luckily, the Oriental we're talking about, it's all about style and comfort. Now, how about a style that's, all American?
Okay, hit me.
The Americain, think of a column supporting a capital. It was even called Independence back in the day.
That's kind of ironic, isn't it? The name suggests freedom, but the style itself can feel pretty structured.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe it's more about, feeling empowered, standing tall, like a column.
I like that. Now, for something more casual, we've got the collier du cheval.
Ah, yes, the collier de cheval. This one features horizontally striped or spotted cravats and, it kind of resembles a horse collar.
So it's all about that laid-back look, but still stylish.
Exactly. Though maybe not the best for a black tie event.
Probably not.
Yeah.
What about some styles with a bit more, romantic flair?
Okay, well, the sentimental, it has this charming rosette tied near the chin, perfect for those special occasions where you want to add a touch of, sentimentality.
I love how a cravat can add that extra layer of meaning. What about if you're going for a more casual, unstarched look?
Then you got to go with the Byron style. Inspired by Lord Byron himself,
Poet, yeah.
known for his love of freedom and comfort. It shows that a cravat doesn't always have to be stiff and formal. It can be about expressing a more relaxed, individual style.
It's fascinating how even the way you wear a cravat can say something about your personality. Speaking of personality, what about someone who's really into precision and order?
Oh, they'd love the mathematic. It's all about symmetry and structure.
Okay.
Precise geometric folds, kind of a severe look. It's a statement of, intellectual elegance.
I can see that appealing to, architects or mathematicians.
Yeah.
And finally, we can't forget the gastronome.
Ah, yes. The gastronome designed to loosen if your throat swells, after a big meal.
So basically the cravat equivalent of wearing your stretchy pants after Thanksgiving dinner.
Ha! Exactly. But it's great that there's a cravat style for every occasion, every personality.
So true.
Okay.
You mentioned the Gordian knot being a good starting point for tying. Are there any other knots that are beginner-friendly?
Absolutely. The four-in-hand knot, it's a classic, very versatile, and pretty easy to learn. Simple knot creates a slightly asymmetrical look, adds a touch of nonchalance.
Perfect. So we've got the Gordian knot for a challenge and the four-in-hand for something more approachable. What are the key things to keep in mind when you're first starting out with tying cravats?
Practice is key. Don't get discouraged if you don't nail it on the first try.
Yeah,
It takes time and patience, like any new skill.
it's true.
And don't be afraid to experiment. There are so many variations and styles to play with. Once you've got the basics, then you can start adding your own personal touches, create looks that reflect your own style.
So it's about finding what works for you
Yeah,
and having fun with it.
exactly.
Now, how do we actually wear cravats in a modern way? I can see them with suits, blazers, but what other options are there?
Cravats are super versatile. You can dress them up or down.
Okay.
You can pair them with casual button-down shorts, even t-shirts.
Wow.
Experiment with different fabrics, patterns, see what works with your style.
It's all about taking those classic elements and reinterpreting them in a fresh, modern way.
Yeah, I like that.
Now, before we move on to more advanced tying techniques, we should probably talk about how to keep those cravats looking their best.
Right, cravat care. That's important.
Yeah, cravat care. We've covered their history, the different styles, even some basic tying. But to keep those cravats looking sharp, we need to give them a little TLC.
Absolutely. Proper care is key. If you want them to stay crisp, vibrant, ready to make a statement for years to come.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. Washing. Can we just throw them in the washing machine?
Well, especially for those delicate vintage cravats, hand washing is the way to go. It's the gentlest and most effective method.
Okay, so hand washing. How do we do that?
So you want to fill a basin with cool water and use a mild detergent, something specifically designed for delicate fabrics.
All right, cool water, delicate detergent. What's next?
Gently swish the cravat in the soapy water. No harsh scrubbing or twisting that can damage the fabric.
Got it, gentle swish. So after the soapy bath, what then?
Rinse it thoroughly under cool running water until all the soap is gone. Then, and this is important, don't wring it out.
Okay.
Gently squeeze out the excess water. Support the cravat with both hands so you don't stretch or damage it.
No wringing, just gentle squeezing. It's like handling a delicate piece of art. What about drying? Can we hang them up like a regular shirt?
Hanging can actually stretch the fabric over time. The best way is to lay it flat on a clean towel, away from direct sunlight or heat that can fade the colors.
Right, makes sense. So air drying is the best then.
Exactly. You can speed things up a bit by gently patting it with another clean towel just to absorb any extra moisture.
So we've washed it, dried it, now on to ironing. Any tips for getting that really crisp, professional look?
Definitely. Use a low heat setting on your iron and always iron on the reverse side so you don't get any shine or damage to the fabric.
Okay.
If it's silk or another delicate material, you might want to use a pressing cloth for extra protection.
Good tip. And what about those sharp edges, the precise folds? You mentioned a small iron earlier. That a must-have?
It's certainly helpful. That small iron is perfect for getting those edges and folds just right. Gives it a really polished look.
So once we've ironed it to perfection, how do we store our cravats? Hanging them in the closet seems like the obvious choice.
Actually, hanging can stretch the fabric, remember? Best to fold them neatly and store them flat, either in a drawer or a dedicated cravat box.
Right, so they keep their shape.
Exactly, and it keeps them wrinkle-free and dust-free, too.
It's like giving your cravats their own luxury apartment. Now, what about stains? Accidents happen, especially with those vintage pieces.
The key is to act fast. Blot the stain gently with a clean cloth. Don't rub. That'll just spread it further. If the stain's stubborn, best to take it to a professional dry cleaner, someone who specializes in delicate fabrics.
Okay, gentle blotting, and if all else fails, call in the experts. Prevention is key too, right?
Absolutely. Be mindful of what you're eating or drinking when you're wearing a cravat, especially if it's a delicate vintage one.
Good point. Any other cravat care tips?
One more thing, don't go overboard with the starch. Too much can make the fabric stiff and uncomfortable, and it can even damage delicate fibers over time.
So everything in moderation, even starch. We've learned a lot today. The history, the styles, tying techniques, and now proper care.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. So for our listener who wants to start wearing cravats, what's the one thing they should take away from our deep dive?
I'd say embrace the versatility of the cravat. It's a timeless piece that can be styled in so many ways. It lets you express your own unique personality, adds a touch of elegance to any look.
Beautifully said. It's been fascinating to explore the world of cravats and to see that this, seemingly simple piece of cloth has such a rich history, such a variety of styles.
Got a whole lot of personality.
It really does. So we encourage you to explore, to discover the endless possibilities of the cravat. Who knows, you might even inspire a whole new generation of cravat enthusiasts.
And remember, a well-chosen, well-cared-for cravat is an investment in style. It'll last you for years to come.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep it stylish and keep exploring.